And hello again. We are back with another Cherie and Elizabeth Talk Sports. And I am Elizabeth Emery with Hear Her Sports podcast. And my friend Cherie Turner is here, and she hosts and produces Strides Forward podcast. Hey, Cherie, how are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Great. Well, I'll start us off by
Please do.
talking
Yes.
about what's on my mind recently. And what is on my mind is I'm back to track racing. And it just has, I guess this isn't so much of an update as it is excited to keep trying this new training method that I'm on that we've talked about before, where I am focusing on weight training and more yoga and short, fast intervals and not a lot of miles. And part of the reason I'm bringing this up, there are two reasons. One is because Next Level, the book by Dr. Stacy Sims and Celine Yeager, comes out tomorrow, which is
So exciting.
very exciting.
Yes.
I already got my notification that I should be receiving it tomorrow. So that's very exciting. Yes, I'll let you know how that works out. And
I
I
wonder,
also,
I should be getting mine too. I wonder,
I
I
would
didn't.
think so. Yeah.
Yes, I'm excited.
So, yeah, we can compare notes.
Yeah.
And the other thing was that I posted something about my experience on the Hit Play Not Pause Facebook site. And that is Celine Yeager's podcast about women going through menopause and performing, being athletes through their menopausal years. And I got a lot of really interesting feedback. And some women have experienced very similar things where they cut way back on their miles. And they were people, it sounds like by and large, people like myself who have had a history of following traditional programs and putting in long miles and just getting totally beat up by it. And I said before that running lots and lots of miles just makes me feel tired and super achy
Mm.
and burn out after a while. And it's just not fun. But I am somebody who will doggedly keep following a program, even if it doesn't seem to be working that well for me. And I've really backed off that mentality. And I really only do hard workouts when I feel like I can do them really well. I don't slog through workouts anymore. I certainly will, I'll push myself to do something if I feel like I might be able to turn it around in a workout. Maybe I'm just feeling crummy getting started. So, it's not like I just wake up and like decide, oh, I'm not going to do this today. But anyway, I'm really trying to listen to my body, cut back on miles, and I'm very excited about this. And so I got some feedback from several women who had been trying this program themselves, or this kind of method of fewer miles, more strength training and more intensity, and it seems to be working for people. So I'm just over the moon about this because it's like feels like a whole new lease on life. And I'm also excited to be back to track racing and checking my ego at the door, because I did my first meet and I was the slowest person in both my races, but I PR'd in both my races.
Oh,
So I was super excited. And I'm up against, it was all ages and all experience levels, so you're kind of in there with everybody, and you just kind of got to do what you got to do. And like for this track stuff, I'm finding as a master, competing, there aren't a lot of opportunities to race on the track, and I just got to take them where I can. If I show up and there's just a bunch of super fast 25-year-olds, I just got to go with it.
yeah.
And I think I may have actually gotten beat by a 12-year-old, which on one hand I was like, wow, this, like, it could be maybe embarrassing, but at the same time I was like, there's a 12-year-old who is running super fast, and she would not, like, she came back, I passed her and she passed me back, and I was like, man, this girl's got some grit, and it was
That's
super
awesome.
cool to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyways, that's my news for today. How about you?
Well, I'm excited you talked about that because I too have cut back on miles or hours. I don't count miles so much, and have increased strength training. And also I've increased stretching and yoga. And I have to agree with you. It's really great. I mean, it's
Yeah.
super great. So I fill my workouts out on Training Peaks, and every workout, it uploads from my watch, and I can comment on it like actual words, but I can also give sort of a 5 range smiley face system account, and also say how hard it feels, like perceived exertion. And really, for a long time, I've been just sort of like it's a normal day, and sort of it's the mid circle of the smiley faces and the mouth is like straight across. It's like, well,
Fine.
okay. And I mean, seriously, it's been like that for a lot, like months and months. And when I switched to this new method, which wasn't that long ago, I mean, almost every single day I feel strong.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. I feel, like I just feel good on the bike. I feel good when I'm doing the strength training. And it's just fascinating to me. It's great. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll comment on about there is that this stuff does take a little time to kick in, and although it sounds like it kicked in pretty quick for you.
It did. I mean, it's
Strength
not all
training
the way.
benefits.
I think one of my biggest things to overcome right now is the inflammation, which I have to do a little bit more research about because Stacey Sims does talk about it, and it is related to menopause and also to sort of doing too many miles or too many hours or whatever. So I have to learn more about that. And I do kind of get sucked in, like you were saying some other week about, you tend to do more miles when you're with friends, and
Right.
that's sort of what happens. So, like I have to be mentally stronger to say, sorry, it's time for me to turn around. So I'm
Right.
still
Right.
suffering from a little bit of inflammation. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, the one other thing that I wanted to add too, just about my own story and also going through this process is learning how to be patient again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because, especially with this track stuff, I'm so new to it and understanding that I'm not going to be really good at it right out of the gate, and to plan for what I want to be doing in 2 years from now, for instance,
Right.
and recognizing that you get better over time. Even talking to a woman that was at the races this weekend, and she's an 800 runner in college, and she was talking about improving over the 4 years of university. And I thought, that's because when you keep at these things for a long time, you get better with time. And so it was just a good reminder of being patient and working toward a goal that isn't next week or next month, but that might be a couple of years down the road.
Right. I feel that way with the strength training.
Right.
I had been lifting at a gym prior to COVID. And then with COVID, I started doing it at home. And, obviously the weight went down. I was doing higher reps
Right.
and lower weights. And so I'm building back up again. And I love strength training because, you do go from one week to another and you do get stronger, and I am getting stronger. But, I'm not lifting what I was lifting pre-COVID for
Right.
sure.
Yeah. And you can't just jump right back into it either.
That is a big mistake.
Yes. Yeah. I've been there.
Been there. We advise against that. Yes, yes. But that is not my news. My news is my new poster.
Yay.
Yay. So this is another retro poster. And I have to say, I always love finding retro posters just because, okay, I say we're moving into more equity. So when I see a poster that's made currently in, 2022 era, it feels like, okay, that should happen. But I get particularly excited. This is from the 90s and 2000s. And I think, wow, that's from the WNBA. And, it was very different in the 90s and the 2000s even. And that was 20 years ago. So it's very exciting for me that there was actually a poster that was made. And this poster is of Adrienne Williams, Bridget Pettis, and Lisa Harrison from Phoenix Mercury. So the WNBA is starting up. So it feels particularly great to have found this WNBA poster from long ago. So that is it.
Well, and I'll chime in to say that I don't have a poster, but I do have a fancy t-shirt. And so I'll show everybody.
Yay!
This track club. And I bought this because it is to support an unsponsored runner. Her name is Nikki Hiltz, and she is a 1,500 meter runner, sort of, I guess you'd say middle distance track runner. And so she's selling these t-shirts to get her through the outdoor track season. And the fun thing about this is I've pointedly worn it to track meets and other running events. And I either see other people wearing the same shirt. There's many different colors. It was one of the exciting things about getting this shirt is it came in many colors. And even this last weekend, I had somebody walk by and said, "I love your shirt. I have it in pink." So it's a nice community builder and also supports an athlete who I really like. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, we're going to move on to our media session, and we are going to talk about Black Rosie Media. And Black Rosie Media was started by Erica Ayala. And I found it through the Black Sportswoman, which is a newsletter that I get. And it is really great. It's where everybody should subscribe. I actually really love newsletters. I'm probably one of the few people, but it just seemed I just get a very nice, intimate email. It feels like a letter written to me whenever I get a newsletter, particularly of stuff that I like. And there's so many good ones these days. I mean, we've talked about Fast Women, and this is another one that I really like. So she mentioned last week that this Black Rosie Media had launched, and I hadn't realized that it had launched last week. So it is brand new.
Yes.
Erica has been in the sports space for a long time. Her bona fides are really incredible. Let's see. So she was also on Hear Her Sports podcast, just in case you want to go back and listen. She was on episode 61. But her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Sports Illustrated, Hockey News, The Athletic, and The Guardian. I discovered her first actually through The Athletic. I mean, but anyway, she does really great work. She's super smart, and she is from New York, and I just love her New Yorkness. She's now not in New York. But anyway, I know that you went to go look at the website. What did you think?
Well, I thought that it was, I'm happy that it exists.
Yes.
You know, I guess that's the first thing. Just, I've said this before, the fact of it made me really happy.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a website for Black and BIPOC people to write about sports and have community and to show their work. And it seems to have a lot of elements to it to support this community of writers who, you know, will have a place to showcase what they do and also have community, and because, you know, we're better together. And so I just thought, I just like the fact of it, because there's also the fact that people who are non-white, especially women who are non-white, face different sorts of hurdles and struggles, and that having a space where they can have community feels very important. And so I'm also excited to check it out, because I feel like in a space like that, you're maybe very most likely to get the authentic voices of people, instead of maybe if their voices are watered down through a bigger system that is controlled by people who are maybe not Black or most likely white and male.
Right.
Anyway, it seems like a space that people can have very authentic voices, and that is very important, and let those voices grow and have a community of people that they can get feedback from and support each other. And so I'm excited to see what comes out of that and follow what they're doing.
Yeah. Erica has talked about that. She's talked about her launch on a bunch of different sort of media outlets. And she has said that, you know, she wants Black and other BIPOC people, women, to be reporters, but, you know, she also wants them to be in, you know, I think it was actually Shireen Ahmed who said that she wants more women of color to be in sort of the back office, you know, making the decisions, right, and not necessarily on camera, but to be the ones making the decision. Because when the we've talked about this, when the decision makers are not white men, the reporting is very different. And Erica has talked about how when you have reporters answering the questions to the athletes and they're women of color, then the questions and the responses to the answers are very different than if they're not, then it's a white male. So it's, you know, it's much more respectful or understanding or something. So, and yeah, so I'm also very thrilled that it is a space. And she has already said that they've been getting great feedback and have gotten requests for information from both people who are interested in getting into the sports world, you know, women interested in getting the sports world, but also people wanting to find out where they can sort of find talent. So it's great. Right. It's already doing its job, and it's only been a week old. So.
Right. Yeah. Very new days. And, you know, it did remind me a little bit of Siren Sport, which we've talked about just a bit, based in Australia. And their mandate is supporting women writers in the sports space. And they're doing a lot of great stuff over there. They do a lot of mentoring and help get voices out. So it felt very similar, just in the community building and support that they have over there, and they've been very successful. So that's exciting to see.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you and I sort of piggybacked on with this was the discussion with the ESPN summit that we keep talking about, which is so good.
Yeah.
And there was a panel discussion of Black women reporters in the sports space for ESPN, and it was LaChina Robinson, Elle Duncan, Monica McNutt, and Christine Williamson all had a chat, and they were talking about what it was like to be a Black woman in that space, and these very high profile spaces of television and, you know, reporting on both men's and women's sports. And so it was really, well, first of all, I thought it was really nice to get an insight into the things that they're thinking about specifically as Black women, because I don't think that opportunity pops up enough. And right. So that was really nice to see. And also, and you and I have touched on this in our own private conversations, that we resonated a bit with the things that they said. So it was nice to see that there is some crossover, that it's, you know, we're not all in these isolated worlds, but right. Also recognizing that there are other hurdles as Black women that we don't face and can't understand.
Right. So. But I love hearing what they're talking about, because I do see a lot of similarities, and I like taking the lessons that that panel was amazing. And
it was fantastic. It's totally like, people should go watch it for sure.
Right. So what they were talking about, one of the women was asked to change her hair.
Yeah.
And
that was Monica McNutt. It was, who has the short hair. Yes.
Has the short hair. And she was like, this is a non-issue. I will wear lipstick and I'll wear, you know, nail polish, and I'll make sure they match, and you can do whatever you want to my clothing, but I'm not changing my hair. And I just really like that, just because she then said, you know, that was it was where she was going to draw the line of who she was and what she was willing to compromise on and what she was not willing to compromise on. And I thought it was a lesson that a lot of them talked about with different examples. And I thought it was a really great takeaway from that particular thing about her hair, but also from other examples that the other ones had. And I think that's important because, you know, as women, as Black women, we are often asked to do stuff so that we can fit into this space that doesn't normally house us. And, you know, I think internally we have to know where we're willing to compromise and where we're not.
Yeah. And I will also point out that Christine Williamson is bald and has been bald throughout her entire career.
Yeah.
So, and she got pushback on that, and she stood very firm, and now she is where she is. And the other thing to note is that these women are just fantastic on camera, and they're so fun.
So
and
good.
So it just, but it was interesting because there was also conversation about the desire to not be like the person who came before you. Like, there were lots of interesting topics that came up with them. You know, one of them was imposter syndrome, and really like learning how to own their own authentic voice, and that they've been hired to be who they are. So don't be somebody else, and don't try and be somebody else. So I thought that was a really great takeaway. And also this fear, and, you know, a couple of those women expressed it, the fear of, if I fail, I am failing the women behind me, specifically other Black women behind me. And and we've heard this over and over and over again, with women in sports more generally too, where it's just like, I have to, you know, make it to the end or win or whatever it might be, in order to not put us back, not make things go backwards for women. And in this case, Black women.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Super fascinating.
Yeah. So I don't have a whole lot more to add on this topic, Elizabeth, except for that I think people should go watch that panel discussion on ESPNW. We'll link once again to that. Subscribe to the Black Sportswoman. I'm also a subscriber. I love the work that Bria Felician does. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. And I've loved following her and reading her newsletter as well. And then also to check out what's going on at Black Rosie.
Yeah. And I noticed, by the way, that they are going to be talking about the Rosie Media, Erica Laya, is going to be talking about Title IX in the next coming weeks. So this is something to look forward to because you and I have had many discussions about Title IX.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And something we're going to be diving into
yeah.
more and more as we come up on that fated anniversary.
Yes, yes. Well, should I wrap it up? Are we done? I think
So,
so. Well, it is good to be back for another week of Cherie and Elizabeth Talk Sports. I am Elizabeth Emery from Hear Her Sports, and I'm with Cherie Turner of Strides Forward. We will see you next week. Bye bye.
thanks so much. Bye bye.